What's up, shipbuilders? I am pleased to present to you not one, not two, but three separate Nubian ship builds. The Royal Cruiser, or Diplomatic Barge, the Queen's Royal Starship, and the N1 Starfighter, specifically the souped-up Mandalorian version. I've always loved the sleek design of these ships from the Star Wars Prequels, and Nubian craft they're like flying works of art. So while we don't have chrome paint in Starfield, I think we should all aspire to fly something as sleek and beautiful as these starships. Now, I'm going to cover all of the modules and ship systems in each of these builds, and similar to all of my builds, I not only want a ship that looks good, but it must have top performance too, which means I want the best, most powerful components allowed that fit the aesthetic of each ship. But don't feel as though you have to follow these choices exactly. If you want to use a different reactor, a different grav drive, different weapons, HABs, cargo, whatever it may be, these builds should be able to accommodate any such choices without much difficulty. Or if you simply haven't unlocked certain pieces yet due to your character's level requirements, you can still build these ships and simply use different system components based on your level. They should fit just fine. So to start, we're going to start with this Queen's Royal Starship, the J-Type. And you'll see I used the 104DS mag inertial reactor. This is a Class B reactor, 39 power points out of a max 40. I use this because this is a sleek ship. There's not a whole lot of room for some of the bigger Class C reactors. And so this Class B reactor actually provides a lot of power. The drawback is that it's Class B, and so that impacts the potential shield or weapon choices I might have available, but there's still plenty powerful shields and weapons at a Class B, and so it really wasn't a hindrance at all for this ship. The next piece is the grav drive. If you've watched any of my prior videos, you know I choose a grav drive just by finding the one with the lowest mass that gives me at least 28 light years of grav jump distance. So this Aurora drive does that for me. And the shield, the 28T Defender, it's a Class B shield because we have a Class B reactor, so we're limited to Class B. And the 28T Defender is still one of the best in the game, 1500 shield health, and so we're really not missing out on much. The engines are SA 4330s. These are Slayton engines, some of the best in the game in terms of thrust per mass and maneuvering thrust per mass. The other unique aspect of these engines, which we'll see later in the build, is you can actually place certain structural pieces or even another engine behind them, meaning you can slot them into places you normally couldn't fit an engine, which allows us to use the maximum of 6 allowed and still maintains a sleek look without having to resort to glitches. For our weapons loadout, with a sleek ship like this, it's hard to find enough weapon mount places for all the weapons I like to have. But for a ship like this, I went with all particle beams. You'll see I've got 6 Vanguard Obliterator auto projectors, 4 PBO 175 auto helion beams, and 4 PBO 100s as well, which really altogether just decimate enemy ships. It's not fair. For the detail build, I broke this out into layers. So we're going to start with the bottom layer. On the front, for the nose, we've got this Tayo cowling flipped upside down, the Acculander, we've got a little bit of cargo, and a whole piece just to hold things together. This Tayo companionway here does have the slim docker on the bottom, which maintains the sleek look of the ship on the top. And then on the side, these Deimos wings start to give that sleek kind of shape to the front nose of the ship. The reactor sits right in the middle, right in front of the grav drive. And on either side, I've got a little bit of cargo. The reason for kind of the half piece of cargo is the shield actually sits on the other side, which we'll see in a minute. Not a whole lot of room on this ship to maintain that sleek look. And on top here, I've got a bunch of different HABs. These Tayo HABs have a nice rounded shape to them, which is why I went with these, but the B versions are critical, not the A versions. The B versions have connectors, slots on the side, connection points. The A versions do not. And so we'll see that later on as well. And then to round out the sides, these Nova cowlings are nice, but you'll notice there's also some fuel tanks here, which look a lot like the Nova cowlings. And so we can kind of hide our fuel next to these structural pieces and nobody's the wiser. And And then to maintain that nice sleek look on the back, these Stroud pieces, which are really a workhorse of a piece in this game. For the engine kind of wings, you'll see I've got some Acculanders here, and then like we talked about, an SA-4330 slotted in between a couple structural pieces, and that's not a problem given that they are small enough to do that, so we're not having to do any glitches to slot those engines in. They fit there just on their own. Now here's what I'm talking about with that Taio A piece, how it's nice and rounded. And then these Nova cowlings on the top complete the look. Again, with these Slayton engines, you'll see they slot in here normally, no glitching. They just slot in all by themselves. You want to flip them a little bit to get that look. And finally, I've got a little equipment mount on the side, or weapon mount I should say, just to fit a few more weapons. And then the last piece underneath those Stroud pieces are just the same Stroud cap pieces but flipped to complete the look and the shape of the ship. Now, same thing on the other side. You'll notice I do have the shield generator here. Just off to the side, that 28T Defender mounts to the sides of things, and so that's kind of gets hidden underneath our ship, so we don't really have to see it. But it does take up a little bit of space, which is why I couldn't use a full, bigger cargo container over on the other side. Starting to come together. The last part of this will be the cockpit on the top. Again, that Taio companionway is the A version, so it's rounded on the sides. There's no connector points on the sides. And then for the bridge or the cockpit, I'm using this command bridge. It's from Taio, so you can get this from Taio Astroneering. This is the highest and best version of their bridge. You could use a lower version. You'll miss out on a little bit of cargo space, but everything else will look exactly the same. And that wraps up this build. Let's see how it does against a legendary ship on very hard difficulty. Okay, now let's look at the Royal Starship's big brother, the cruiser. as you'd expect, we're going to use similar design decisions for this build, and obviously we're heavily constrained by the maximum width of ships allowed in the Starfield shipbuilder. I played around with this quite a bit and believe this to be the best compromise of the width of the wings versus the engine spacing to the body. It isn't perfect, but it did still turn out a lot better than I expected when I set out to build this ship. Now, given this ship is a bit bigger, I was able to fit the Pinch 8A reactor. I like this reactor just given its health points, over 1900. You sacrifice a bit in power, 36 power points compared to a max 40, but that total health is really nice. Now again, with the grav drive, choose the one that fits the overall mass of your ship and gets you at least 20 light years of jump range. For the shield, because we got a Class C reactor, I could have used the Assurance and gotten a little bit extra shield health, but I didn't want to put it on the top of the ship. I felt like it kind of ruined the look a little bit. So we went with the 28T Defender, which saves us a lot of mass, and we still have 1500 shield health, which is the second highest in the game. For the engines, the SA 4330s, you can get up to 6 of these on the ship. The unique thing about these, as we already mentioned on the last build, is you can slot these in front of other structural components, which means you can maintain a sleek look of your ship without having to have the engines completely on the back. So that's kind of a unique aspect of these engines. For the weapons, CE-59 missile launchers and some particle beams, the Vanguard Obliterator auto projectors and the PBO 175s. Just a fun loadout. The missiles are fun, they reload slow, but they're extremely powerful, and the particle beams just destroy enemy ships. Now for the detailed build, I've got this in layers. We'll start kind of down the center of the ship with these Tayo cowlings, just one upside down, one right side up, and the grav drive connected to the reactor right in the middle of the ship. Now I do have, you'll notice various Tayo habs, the A and B versions. The A version, like you see here, doesn't have connector points on the sides. The B version does, so it's a critical difference. And this Tayo hab here actually has the slim docker on the bottom, so you come from the landing bay straight into that, and then this docker on the bottom. And you'll see here I'm actually already slotting an engine in the middle of my ship. And it slots in just fine without any glitching at all. So this forms kind of the core, the center of our ship from front to back, with the tail starting to take shape already. Now before I move on to the wings and these engine pieces, just to show you, here's the slim docker underneath, so we don't have to see that sitting on top of our ship. And now these Acculanders, I'll move this out of the way just a little bit. These Acculanders with their connection points on all sides actually form, or are the key connection points for these engine pieces. So you'll see I've got the Acculander here. It's the only thing that connects the wings to the main fuselage. Here's another one of those Tayo habs. There's no way to get into those habs. They're just there for aesthetic reasons. They do provide some extra crew slots, which is nice, or passenger slots. And you'll see here that SA 4330 engine slotting in there without any glitches. So your crew can actually spawn into those habs. You can't get in there with your character, which I think is actually kind of nice. You have a slightly lower chance of having to listen to them while passive-aggressively pretending you don't want to listen. And separately, did you actually know you can turn off NPC audio in the game settings? Just something to consider. So the rest of these engine pieces are basically identical. You'll see I am using the version of the Tayo habs with connection points on the side here, just so I can get the rest of the wings. And these missiles do attach with an equipment plate, which is at the top here. I've got these Nova wings, these connected by the Stroud pieces here. And then the shield, because this shield is a side mount only, and then a weapon mount, just to fit additional weapons on the ship. So we're going to do the same thing on the other side. The Aculander, again, is the main connector piece for the wings. And starting with an A version, top A version of the Tiohabs to get a rounded look. Slot an engine underneath, and then each of these Tio caps flipped front and back to get the nice nose cone shape of the cruiser. B version of the top Tiohab, because that does have connector points on it on the sides. And the cool thing about having those engines slotted in front of those Tio nose caps is they actually kind of create a nice halo effect with the exhaust coming out the back as you fly through space, which is kind of cool. So now we've got the main shape of our ship, and we're just going to place really some habs in the cockpit on top to finish it out. So wanting that smooth look, we've got another one of these Tio cowlings and then some habs all the way to the back. Again, choose whatever habs you would like. And then these Nova cowlings rounded out, and you'll see I'm hiding actually these M30 Ulysses fuel tanks, which look very similar to the Nova cowlings. And so in that way we can meet our fuel requirements, but also kind of hide them in the overall look of our ship, which is really nice. And now for the tail piece. I was actually really pleased how this came together, not having to use any glitches again for this whole build. So we've got a Tio bottom B piece, the B meaning it has connection points on all sides. And then these Deimos wings on either side. And then to actually make these look like they're connected, we have these Deimos wing B pieces, which don't connect to each other, but they connect to each of the other wings, and then look seamless. Now for the cockpit, again, this command bridge from Tio, you can get this from Tio Astroneering and Neon. You can use a lesser version if you want to. You'll just miss out on a bit of cargo, which is totally fine. And then the top A version of the hab with the rounded look behind that. And then the Deimos tail. And just to complete the Deimos tail with kind of that nice seam down the middle, we've got a couple of these spine pieces to finish it off. And that's it. I was really pleased with how this came together. Didn't really think it was possible. Again, the width constraints of the shipbuilder are a real constraint, but still was surprised at how this ship came together. So let's see it in action against 3 high-level Starborn ships on very hard. And last, but certainly not least, the Mandalorian's N1 Starfighter. To start, you'll see I've got this Fuser DC-403 reactor. I typically wouldn't use this reactor, but this is critical for a few reasons. First, the shape of this ship is very sleek and low profile, and so fitting any sort of reactor in this ship that fits the aesthetic was going to be difficult. But also, I really wanted a Class C reactor so I could get that assurance shield. Just the shape of that shield really fits the Mandalorian's ship. right on the nose there. And so being that that's a Class C shield, I needed a Class C reactor. And most Class C reactors don't have mounting points on the top or even on their backsides. And so this one does, which was key to fit all the pieces onto this ship. And so that's why I went with this one. For weapons, this thing is armed to the teeth. Again, PBO 175 auto helion beams, Vanguard obliterator auto projectors, and I've got some missiles, these 280C missiles as well. So this thing just mops the floor with any enemy ships. For engines, again, there's the theme. We're using these SA-4330s. Just given their great maneuvering and engine thrust to mass, and also because you can slot 6 of them in and kind of tuck them away in front of other things. Now that shield, the Assurance SG-1800, highest shield health in the game, and then the grav drive, the Aurora 13G, just low mass to get me enough grav jump thrust to go to any star system in the game. Now for this build, again, because it is such a low profile ship, there's not a whole lot of pieces to it. It's going to be similar with this Deimos landing bay in the back and some wings to get the profile and the shape of the ship. Now again, you'll see the reactor does sit right in the middle, and that's why those mounting points on all sides was so crucial to connect all parts of this ship together. The reactor really does hold everything together in this case. In front of the reactor, I've just got the Stroud nose piece, and then you'll see a couple of these Nova wings and the Acculanders, because they also have connection points on all sides. And so they help hold the Nova wings together as well. These Nova wings are nice because they do have a lot of weapon mounts. They have 2 weapon mounts, and they're only at 1 mass. And so while they also are nice for the shape of the ship, they provide some good weapon mounts too. Each of these Stroud engine bracers holds each of kind of the engine wings on. And then these Pinpoint 4G landing gear, you can get these from Tayo Astroneering. They complement kind of the rounded shape for each of these wings as well. And then again, these SA-4330s, this one is tucked in right underneath the grav drive, and it's not glitched in at all. And so that's why I like those as well, is you can kind of hide them in your ship. I did add a bunch of shielded cargo to this. This is a tough ship to get cargo on, because of the sleek look. Now you can choose to use whatever cargo you want, but I just threw some of those on there. Now for the main body of the ship, I'm doing something similar where I've got some of these Tayo habs, these A and B versions. The A versions, again, without connector points on the sides. The B versions do have them. And then to complete the rounded look, these Ulysses fuel tanks, which look just like the Nova cowlings, but allow us to hide some more fuel into almost what seems to be structural components in our ship. Now the other wing, again, basically identical to the other side. The only difference is the other side has the grav drive, so for this one I put some fuel tanks on the top here. You really wouldn't need this much fuel if you have a maxed astrodynamic skill and or Sarah Morgan on your crew, but I thought these looked kind of fun on this ship. So attach that here, and that completes most of our ship. We've just got the tail and the cockpit. So this Stroud engine mount with this Hope Tech bracer, and then this Nova cowling on the very end to approximate kind of the sleek finish to the tail of the ship. And then we've got the Pro Docker on top where Grogu would sit, And our command bridge, again from Tayo Astroneering. This is the top version with the most cargo. You can, again, use a lesser version. You'll just miss out on a bit of cargo, but it'll look exactly the same. And so a lot of pieces from Tayo Astroneering. Most of the rest can be found at your outpost landing pad. And this thing is a ton of fun to fly. Very sleek, very fast, very maneuverable. And to show you, we're going to see how it handles a legendary ship on very hard difficulty. Now I do want to take a second and show you how you can alter this ship to give it the fastest top speed in the game. So to do that, we're going to need to replace these SA 4330 engines with the White Dwarf 3015s. Now these are also Class A engines, but for some reason their top speed is 180, whereas other Class A engines, their top speed is 150. So these White Dwarfs are quite a bit faster, especially after you have a maxed engine system skill and Samco on your crew. But their maneuvering thrust isn't as high, so you see our mobility takes a big hit. So we're going to take off all of these cargo containers and have to throw on just some extra bracers here to finish out each of these wings of our ship. Now we don't want these bracers to have much mass, so these Nova bracers only have 3 mass. So we're going to use those. And then we'll take off these cargo pieces and we'll still be, I think, just a little bit shy of 100 mobility. Now we do have quite a bit of fuel, and so we don't need quite as much fuel given our low mass. And so we're actually going to use these Nova Cowlings and replace the Ulysses tanks that look just the same, but they weigh quite a bit more, and that'll save us. You'll see we're already at 100 mobility. So we can do this on both sides, or we could stop right now. But now you'll see our top speed is up at 180, and we've still got max mobility. We've just taken a big hit to our cargo. So I can even put on an additional fuel tank here if I need extra fuel. But so long as you stay below 1,000 and about 20 mass units, you'll get that max mobility. And there you have it. 3 sleek, beautiful, powerful Nubian ships. I hope you enjoy, and until next time, keep building.